we have provided evidence that in the Naira crude, out of the $28 billion domestic crude shipped by NNPC, NNPC has repatriated $16 billion. Okay, so we have accounted at least money that has come into the central bank out of the $67 billion is $47 billion. So let us first of all make it clear that out of $67 billion NNPC shipped, $47 billion has been repatriated to the central bank. Now what we're talking about is the balance of the $20 billion and what explanations have been given. NNPC has said some of it does not belong to the Federation. So $6 billion MPDC. We have held the position that some of the crude shipped by MPDC is shipped from oil wells that belong to the Federation. JVs that Shell went out of, which NNPC took over and handed over to MPDC, which then handed over to two Nigerian companies, Atlantic Energy and Seven Energy, and transferred revenue that should come to the Federation to private hands. And I have given 3 legal opinions to this committee on the unconstitutionality and illegality of that transaction. Secondly, NNPC has explained that 80% of the money that have not repatriated came on kerosene and fuel subsidy. I have submitted to this committee written evidence of a presidential directive eliminating subsidy since 2009, and NNPC needs to provide its authority for buying kerosene at 150 naira from the Federation account and selling at 40 naira, and inflicting that loss on the Federation. NNPC has also said there is money that was PMS subsidy. I hear that reconciling with PPRA, but for us in the central bank, every month NNPC sends returns for FAC, and every month NNPC indicates how much it has deducted as PMS subsidy. From April 2012 to date, NNPC has submitted returns consistently showing it is deducting nothing before FAC from PMS. So we are surprised that having submitted nil returns since April 2012, we are now being told that in fact deductions were being made. Now, I don't know whether they were made or whether PPRA has approved them, and we will await the reconciliation with PPRA. The other points about third-party financing, operating expenses, which were not appropriated, we have not seen any documentation or any proof. So all that we have said as central bank, and I think there's no disagreement, is that NNPC shipped $67 billion worth of crude. They have repatriated, or we have established that $47 billion has come back to the Federation. There is a $20 billion that has not come back. The burden of proof is on NNPC. But we have made suggestions that we question some of those explanations, and we believe that even some of that which has gone to MPDC does not belong to MPDC, but to the Federation.
You are the governor of a central bank. It's a serious position. In America, they call the chairman of the Reserve Bank, the Federal Reserve Bank. I don't know what they call it in the Netherlands. It's serious. It's one of the most serious positions in the country. And it's an office that you cannot talk carelessly. It's an office that if you say something, it will affect the economy of the country. It's a highly respected office. It's not for Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's not a question of getting 10 PhDs in economics. Your character, because it shows anything you say, the world take it as a gospel truth. The Syrian governor woke up one day and said that the country lost $49.8 billion. I don't know whether the young man should have mentioned that figure or not. And as at that time, the total budget, annual budget of the country 2011-2012 put together, is just about that. So that somebody stole money equivalent to your annual budget for 2 years, even if the whole country is made up of thieves. And I remember the immediate past Syrian governor, Professor Soludo, had a conversation with somebody and said that it's not possible. He said it's not going to, he does not need to look at any book for that. It was not possible. 49.8, that's $50 billion.
Yes.
It was not enough. He went back and slept. A few days after, I said, no, it was $12 billion. Not 49.8 or 12. After some time, it is $20 billion. If you are me, the CBN, the head of your reserve bank, give you three conflicting figures about the same subject matter, what will you do?
Bold, brilliant, intelligent, fearless, outspoken, yet very controversial. His Royal Majesty Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi came to national limelight in Nigeria in June 2009, when the then former president, late Musa Yar'Adua, appointed him as the governor of Nigeria's central bank.
I think it was around late February 2009 when I got a call from a friend who said the president wanted to meet me. And I had never met the president. I was known to have been very critical of the elections. I had been on Voice of America saying there were no elections. And I didn't know why I was being called. And he said, well, look, let me tell you, basically, what's happened is that the president is looking at possible succession to the governorship of Central Bank. And he was given a few names, and he knew all the others, but he had never met you. And he just wanted to know who this person was as he made his assessment. And I said, look, I've just taken over as CEO of First Bank, and I've got these big plans. At that time, we were talking about mergers with ETI, basically trying to build First Bank into the biggest franchise to compete with the South African banks. I had these big dreams for the institution, and I thought the time wasn't right. I said, well, why don't you just go and meet the president? And I went and had this 15-minute meeting, which didn't talk about Central Bank, just talked about my family, normal chat. And it was an honor, obviously, to sit with the president at home. And then in May, on the 8th of May, I got a phone call saying the president wanted to see me. And I went, and it was all of 5 minutes. And he said, look, I've decided I want to make you the next governor of Central Bank. For me, it was a big shock, first of all, because that's not how things are supposed to work in Nigeria. You're supposed to know someone and lobby and, basically the usual politicking. And he obviously, then we had a discussion in which he obviously felt he had been hearing things about the banks. He wasn't a banker, but he had served on the board of one of the banks. Interest rates had gone very high. Everybody was saying the banks had problems. But when he spoke to his government and regulators, he kept hearing that everything was fine. And he didn't want to take the risk of having the banking system collapse. And he also had obviously done some background research, and a number of people had given him my name.
From the moment Sanusi Lamido Sanusi mounted the podium for screening as a potential CBN governor by the Senate on 3rd June 2009, his life in 5 years tenure as a CBN governor that will be surrounded by so much controversies became incontrovertible.
You had banks like First Bank and UBA and Zenith and GT that had a lot of liquidity sitting in the central bank earning 1%. Whereas you had other banks who were borrowing at 22% and they couldn't get money from the interbank market. So what did the bankers know that the rest of the world didn't know?
His banking reforms and successful prosecution of some top Nigerian bank chief executives was applauded worldwide, but not without controversies.
We've heard stories about investment bankers influencing rating agencies, for example, to give false ratings to products, and we've not seen any prosecutions. What we said was, if it costs us so much money to bail out the banks, individuals had to be held responsible. And certainly in the case of Nigeria, we had cases of clear fraud, theft, bad loans, and bad disclosure. And we wanted to make people account for their actions. When we got in, nobody knew how bad the situation was until the investigators, until the examiners went in. And even then, we didn't know how bad things were until we put in our management. So I'll give you an example. Examiners go in and see these billions that were non-performing loans that have been presented as performing loans. Now that's just one thing, non-disclosure. We removed the management, put in our management, and discovered that the borrowers were actually the same people who were lending, which we didn't know because these were just SPVs that were set up by people to take money out of the bank. So it wasn't a case of bad lending decisions, but actual conversion of depositors' funds to personal use. There was one chief executive officer that took away from her bank over 200 billion naira. Okay, that was over $1 billion. And where was this money taken to? Purchase of property. We recovered from one CEO 200 pieces of real estate in Dubai, real estate in Johannesburg, real estate on the Potomac in Washington, apart from shares in over 100 companies. And all of that was purchased with depositors' funds. We went to the court in UK on the case of another CEO. We got a judgment against that CEO for 142 billion naira, stolen from the bank, taken to buy shares and manipulate the shares of his own institution, and also transferred outside to purchase property. Now, the first CEO we were able to convict, we recovered these assets and got a 6-month sentence and sorted it out. The second CEO, we finished our case, established in Nigeria that we had a civil case in the UK, had a criminal case in Nigeria, established the case. 2 weeks before the closing statements were made, the judge was miraculously promoted to the Federal Court of Appeal after 3 years of trial, at the very end of trial, because someone, a very popular religious leader with hundreds of thousands of supporters, carried him to political authorities, and the system that was supposed to protect depositors and handle criminals was used and manipulated to promote a judge so that he would not convict a thief. I do have no doubt in my mind that we're dealing with forces that will fight back. I don't know anyone who stepped on their toes and gotten away with it totally, and they're very strong people. And I do know they will get back one way or the other, and I just have to be prepared for whatever it is.
Sanusi's constant comment on national development at home and abroad, especially his closeness to some top opposition leaders, made him become a subject of suspicion and controversies at the presidency.
We were dealing with chief executives that in 2009 had become invincible. They were in the seat of power. They had economic power, and they had bought political protection. They were into political parties, they had financed the elections of officers, and they believed that nobody could touch them. And every time I said it was time for us to take action, people said to me, you can't touch these people, you'll be sacked. Or you can't touch these people, they will kill you. Or you can't touch these people, you can't do it. And I said, you know what? We are going to take them on. And we took the decision. We're going to remove them. And you know what? We removed them and nothing happened. We're going to prosecute them. We're going to put them in jail. And we put one of them in jail. And we're going to recover these assets. Because the way the central bank operated in the past was these guys take all this money and the central bank says the bank has failed. The banks that we saved had 4.4 trillion naira in deposits. They had 8 to 10 million customers. But the government and the system has always betted on the side, has always bet on the side of the rich people. Because these 8 million customers, the old woman in Boko, or in Yenagoa, or in Maiduguri, who has been told to save her money, and who saved money for 40, 50 years, wakes up one day and all her savings are gone. The civil servant who's worked for 35, 40 years, kept his pension money in the bank, the school fees of his children, the medical bills, wakes up one day and he finds that his bank is barricaded because the bank has failed. Banks do not fail. When people say banks have failed, it's like seeing a man whose throat has been slit and you say the man died. He did not die, he was killed.
In 2012, at Oxford University, Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi took a swipe at the PDP, the President's Amnesty Program, and the South-South Youth. Although it was said to be a joke, many in the government saw it as going too far.
Well, coming from Nigeria, I think it's important for us to talk about the definition of youth. I suppose I suppose in every part of the world, it's usually young men and women between the age of 15 and 24. In my country, we've got youth and we have youth. And I'm sure you know that the governing party, the ruling party, PDP, just elected a youth leader who's 60 years old. And if you're from the Niger Delta, it doesn't matter what your age is, you can always claim to be a youth and get payments from Amnesty. So you've got all sorts of militants, some of them older than me, and they say youth.
The creation of Islamic banking in Nigeria, donation of 500 million naira to Kano bomb blast victims, proposal for the introduction of 5,000 bail as Nigeria's highest denomination, among other policies and activities of the CBN governor, attracted wide national criticism. No doubt Malam Sanusi was a brilliant, outspoken and fearless administrator that won many local and international awards. However, the last straw that blew the camel's back was when Sanusi allegedly leaked a letter written to President Goodluck Jonathan detailing alleged missing of $49.8 billion, which he later reduced to $20 billion. This allegation of missing money and the leaked letter has already damaged the presidency, either true or false.
If you are me, the CBN, the head of your reserve bank, give you three conflicting figures about the same subject matter, what will you do?
The presidency believes Sanusi has set out to embarrass the government with some of his pronouncements which are aimed to demean the office of the president. Lamido Sanusi Lamido was subsequently suspended as CBN governor, and another controversy began over the power of the president to suspend the CBN governor.
The central bank is an independent institution. There is a section of the act that says the president cannot remove the governor without two-thirds of the Senate. There was a reason for that section. You cannot go around that section by saying, I'm not removing you, I'm suspending you. You cannot do that because it undermines the entire principle. And if the idea is, well, under the Interpretation Act, if you or there is the president appoints so he can suspend, the president doesn't appoint. He proposes and the Senate confirms. So the governor is actually appointed by both the president and the Senate, and therefore should be removed by both. And so for me, I think we should challenge it. I think it should be challenged so that governors coming after me will not refuse to act or will not refuse to be independent for fear.
The issue of this central bank is quite unfortunate, but well, I mean, I will respond based on the issues you raised. You raised the issue of whether, forget about whether it's Goodluck Jonathan, whether the president of Nigeria, by virtue of the constitution of Nigeria, has powers to suspend the governor of CBN. I'll tell you, yes, the president has absolute powers.
While the controversy of Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi's suspension rages on, fortune smiled on him again. The demise of Dr. Ado Bayero, the Emir of Kano, on the 6th of June 2014 made the office of the Emir of Kano open for contest. It was initially rumored that the late Emir's first son, Shiroma Kanu, had succeeded his father, prompting the ruling PDP to issue a congratulatory message to the Emir's son. Moments later, the suspended CBN governor Malam Lamido Sanusi Lamido, another qualified contender for the stool, was announced by Kano State Governor Alhaji Rabiu Kwakwanso as the new Emir. Another controversy began around Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, now Emir of Kano, followed by violent protests in Kano, leading to the death of 4 people. regardless of the protest and the presidency's assumed opposition to his appointment as Emir, Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi became His Royal Majesty and crowned on the 8th of June 2014 as the Emir of Kano. It is hoped that the new Emir will use his voice and position to see to the reconciliation and peace of the volatile northern region. Above all, as His Royal Majesty Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi embraces a new life as the Emir of Kano, he should see himself as the father of all without political sentiments and avoid inflammatory controversies.
I am on the streets of Abuja, the Nigerian Federal Capital Territory, just like any other nation. Nigeria is coping with various challenges, which include socio-economic issues, unemployment, and insecurity.
As we are alive to review the first 100 years of our nation, so by the grace of God, with others, we are alive to review what we have done during the time that we have the opportunity to be in the leadership of this country.
We cannot continue like this as a nation. A time will come when the poor in this country will have nothing to eat but the rich. A time will come, those of us who drive on jeeps, it will become dangerous to even drive those jeeps outside. What happened in Libya is smelling in Nigeria.
In a quest to provide solution to some of these challenges, here comes Project Nigeria.
And with that report on Malam Lamido Sanusi Lamido, His Royal Majesty, we conclude the report on News Roundup this week. I am today Alabi. Until I come your way again, do have a wonderful week ahead.